In this episode, we start a new game of Distant Worlds 2 with heaps of pirates and one boss Scaran faction we start at war with. We're going to be playing as the Reptilians in this run-through. Hope you enjoy the series. Welcome to the start of a new Let's Play series. We're going to be playing Distant Worlds 2. My name is Daz Tactic. Welcome to the channel. Hope you're going to enjoy this series. I'm sort of been trying to think of an interesting way to play this game where it's not going to go on for too many episodes and we've sort of full of aggression and violence, but still be a lot of fun. So anyway, Distant Worlds 2 did launch with a bit of a rocky start. I think they've certainly been sort of playing with the basic engine, with the underlying engine. I'm playing with version 1.0.5.0. This is actually the new version of the game with the latest update in the graphics engine, and it really does make a massive difference. Everything looks better in my screens, like when I'm sort of looking at the actual game itself, and also it's by all accounts it's sort of making the game a lot more stable. So if you did have old stability issues, you may want to relook at this particular game at this point in time. Does that mean that the game is sort of fully fledged out and considered to be launch ready? In my mind, no. I still consider this game to be an early access game, but having said that, it's been the most fun that I've had with a game in 2022, I would say. So it's probably at the top of my 2022 list of games that I've been playing. I don't think it is launch ready though. I think there's still too many other things to come. For example, there's got to be modding support, handled better natively within the game. There's a few other little things I would love to see in the game. Lots of little quality of life things. Like, for example, you can't search for systems. There's no finder for systems. There's no range finders. You can't actually, you can't plot and sort of see how far away things actually are on the map. I mean, these sorts of things really should be in the game really, as a matter of course. And I think that once those sorts of things come into the game, that's when I'll consider the game to be launch ready. But as such, I just treat the game in my head as early access, because certainly the development team is working very, very hard on making the changes to the game. And so there's been a lot of changes that have come in recent weeks, even not just months. But this new engine is sort of pretty much, for me, like it's like they've gone up the hard slope of the hill. They're on the crest now, and it should be a little bit more easygoing, I would imagine, going down the other side, because at least they've got this engine out of the way. So all very, very exciting times, I think, for Distant Worlds 2. So I'll be looking forward to finding other excuses to play it. Let's start a new game, and I'll go through the house rules. The house rules in this game we're going to be playing: if we lose any colony at any time through any machinations, anything that goes on at all, any loss of colony will essentially means losing the game. So that's going to be our house rule. Right, let's get started. Now, this is the default start for the game. I've sort of gotten rid of all of the game settings, so we sort of start back in a default map. Now, I'm thinking I might play 500 stars back in a 4x4, which keeps it fairly compressed, but I will keep it as a standard spiral. I think I might just go to sparse, just so we don't have quite as many nebulas in this case. These are sort of like your choke points in space. They are good. Actually, should we do that? Yeah, let's put it back onto normal. Why not? Galaxy settings back in through here. Now, I'm going to be setting up my own setup, but what I want to do is I want to set up the other groups, the other factions with a young start where they have 2 to 4 colonies and at level 1. So when I click on pre-warp, I can then sort of choose any of the other tech levels essentially as far as the expansion is concerned. Starting is hardly any different, to be honest, between pre-warp and I don't know why they're there, to be honest, because it's pretty much the same thing. You start with a single small colony and no ships or bases. This one here, Empire, starts with a single small colony and minimal tech. Hyperspace travel has not yet been unlocked, but that's actually now handled down through this tech level. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll put the AI on young and at level 1. I do find actually that level 1 and 2 are good starts for playing a game where you can get into the game pretty quickly. If you wanted to just meander through the game, then certainly pre-warp or level 0 is fine, just to start off that way. But I do like my tech level 1s as the way to sort of then go with the actual game itself. Galaxy aggression will go unstable, difficulty will go hard, research speed will go fast, Research visibility, only next projects visible. If you're a new player, you may want to flick that across to all projects visible just so you can see what's coming. But I'll keep it on only next projects visible, and we will go random research paths. Now, this is not on by default, and for new players, probably better off I would have both of those turned on. It could be overwhelming, but it does at least sort of show you what the progression will be over the course of potentially of the game. Tech trading on will be fine. Let's just go that way. Pirates, let's go to very many. Let's keep them on normal. So we'll make the pirate, because people struggle with the pirates, and I want to sort of at least sort of show how to deal with them. So let's go with very many. We'll go normal. Average, they stay dead. Space creatures, I'm not so I'm not really wanting to sort of show them too much. I'll just leave them on normal, I think. Colonization will be next. I think we'll go abundant colony prevalence, so this will be the quality of the planets. Now, I did see a really good suggestion where this should be handled in a different way. So influences the general quality of planets and moons in the galaxy. There should be sort of like a way that sort of pushes it in, and I forget exactly what the suggestion was now, but when I read it I thought, yeah, that makes more sense. I shouldn't have said that because I've completely forgotten what the actual suggestion was, but in this case it's sometimes you end up with colonies that are like a lot of colonies that are subpar. And I think this just raises those numbers. But there was somebody that did, I forget the suggestion. Anyway, I'm not going to agonise over it. Independent colonies, let's just get a few more of them out as well. Colony influence range, we're going to go with 100%. And we're going to change the colonisation range limit down to 100, which means we're going to have to play fairly aggressively. We'll do it 150 because we're playing on a 500. So 500 by sort of 5 by 5 or 7 by 7. I can't remember what we're playing on. Anyway, whatever it is, I'll just keep it on 150. That way we're sort of going to have a reasonable amount that we can then go and settle into. Actually, no, I'll make it 100. 100M is going to be the colonisation range limit, which means that we have to have a colony inside that range to then be able to go and colonise a colony. We can still invade and take over. We can do it that way, but that will be the limits there. Now, our race, I've really agonised on what to do with this because I'm going to have Boscarans as my main enemy, and I just don't know which one I'm going to then sort of play with. I might just keep it on random, but we may restart again, basically, if it's not exactly what I want. And I'll go through what I'm looking for when we do start a game. Empire and government, I'll just leave all this on random, where there's nothing sort of selected in this case because I don't know what we're going to end up with. Actually, does that still have... No, that's okay. It's just got the basics. That's all right. It used to actually show the full long list of things, all sorts of different government types. And so they did fix that. That's okay. Starting situation. Now, what should we do? Why don't we go young but trying? What that's going to do, it's going to mean that we're going to struggle for some of our resources. We'll at least know what's around us, though. So we will at least start established. With some mining stations, but we probably won't have all of the resources that we require. Tech level 1 is where we want to be starting, and I want to go and start, I think, in the deep core, if I can. Now, some people will actually play the game and say, hang on, whenever I start with deep core, I end up on the outer rim. The reason for that is that the AI gets placed first, and then you get placed wherever there's a spot. And quite often the deep core will already have been taken up with other AI, so you get shuffled further and further back out. In this case, I'm just going to choose deep core and see how we go. The other empires, I'm going to turn them off. So we're not going to auto-generate any of those. We're going to add new empires. Now, this is something that I really wish was changed as well, because what I want to do is I want to set up maybe 7 or 8 different empires, maybe seven others, so there's 8 of us in the map. And I'm going to change these to tech level 1, same as me. The expansion is going to be young, and the proximity, I'm just going to keep that on random, home system, normal in this instance. So this is going to be the one thing that's going to be different, is that they're going to have everything they need inside their home system. We're going to be struggling to find stuff. So that's a big deal. That's going to make life really quite difficult for us in our playthrough. It means we're going to have to sort of have things done remotely, and that's going to be, as I say, it's going to be quite tricky. Now, what I would love to see in here, and I really wish it did it, like this is what Dominions does, is that when you set up the first one and then go and click add new empire, it then remembers what this is and then creates another version of that. In this case, the game doesn't do that. So I have to literally go through, what's that? That's 6, 7. So let's just leave it at 7. And I now just need to go and change all of these. All right, so it's only a little thing, but it's just those little quality of life things that the game really does sort of need these little things just to make it life easier for people who are trying to do it. Also, you should be able to turn on both that and this, and sort of push certain things a certain way, and also have some randomly generated empires as well. So anyway, we're going to change this one to Boscara because they're the most aggressive faction. So we'll go with the Boscarans, and we're going to have them at war with us. So we'll just start with an actual war there, and we'll go proximity nearby. So they'll start near us and at war with us. So that's going to make life even more difficult for us. So we're setting up all these little parameters that are going to sort of make life a bit more tricky. Victory conditions, I'm happy with all of those. Race victory conditions, I do love these actually in the game. I'm going to change the victory threshold down to 50%. And I'm going to turn off the race-specific story events. I find that these are great the first time you play as any of the factions because it introduces, I guess, a story around what that faction is, but then it's the same story every time you play it if you keep them on. So they come off for me because they actually get in the way of the, I guess, of the procedural generation of the galaxy and the way things actually work. They certainly do give opportunities through what they present, but in this case, we don't need it. I think the game is better without them. So they come off. Right, so let's start the game and see who we end up as. Boscaran. Okay, so I'm just going to dismiss that. So I'll just click on Let's Get Started. In this case, I don't want to be at war with other Boscarans. It's going to be too easy for us to play a Boscaran playthrough. So that's not going to happen. But at least we sort of start off with a reasonable empire by doing it this way. I'll just pause that where that is. And so that unfortunately means we have to restart again. Now, I'm just going to go back and change on the nebula boundaries. It's interesting. Why is that looking like that? I think I've gotten rid of some of the settings. I'm going to have to go and change some settings as well, just to get some of these things to not sort of strobe the way that they do. Anyway, I'll do that. I'll just go and restart, and we'll get another faction. Okay, we've rolled ourselves the Mortalians, so this is the Mortalan territory. Our faction is known as the Mortalan territory. Our government is a military dictatorship with the Mortalan, who are typically very aggressive and very dependable. Mortalans have natural skills in war weariness reduction, weapons research, armour research, mining rates, ship manoeuvring, troop recovery rates, damage control, and ship maintenance savings. Our leader is Suntaj Yuskalor, skilled in sensor research and hyperdrive research. Our home colony is Kolo Osogi 2, a rocky desert planet in the Kolo Osogi system. Our level of technology is expanding, allowing us to explore beyond our home system. We're at war with the Boscara hive, so that'll be a hive mind. This will be difficult with military dictatorship, to be honest. And to be honest, the Mortalans are one of the most difficult factions to play, so that's okay. We've set up all these other obstacles in our path, so why not? They're difficult because they don't research very quickly at all. Let's just get started and see where we are. This looks good. At first appearance. So we'll just wait until it unpauses, and we'll quickly pause again. Bang, pause that just before they go to the research. If we let it go for too many days, they're going to be sort of doing what they do. Now, when I started last time, one thing I had was I had the nebulas, which I've still got now turned on, were coming through almost like with a sort of a posterized effect that was actually in there. And all I did there was just go back into my settings, back over through this side, and just change the dynamic range, rendering format. So the back buffer format to use when rendering. For best quality, select high dynamic range rendering, which should be available on most hardware. Some video cards and drivers may need to use the standard range. So by default, it started off with standard range, but high dynamic range rendering is what I've now changed that one to. Another thing I'm going to change it to, actually, because I do find it stands out better for me, is the color scheme. Now, all of the other color schemes, like all of them actually, tend to use yellows and greens that are very similar in their value. So like you've sort of almost got like a lime green and a lemon yellow, and they're very, very hard to pick between, particularly for someone like me who's a little bit colorblind. So there is actually a colorblind assist, which does change the colors a little bit. I'm going to turn that one on because I will be able to then see things, and I do find that since I've been using this, it has made the game much easier for me to see what's going on. I would love them to change the green, just to make the green a bit more of a deeper blue green rather than actually a yellow lime green. Anyway, it's probably not going to happen, so I'll just put that there. It's sort of it's funny. So many games would benefit by developers using those deeper greens rather than just the bright greens that you get through your standard Windows, sort of settings and things. Anyway, that's just a little personal rant of mine that I do find difficult in a lot of games. Okay, so anyway, that's just going to be the setups. Everything else, I've turned the music down a little bit, just so it's not too much in what we're doing. So it'll still be there. It just won't be sort of too prevalent. So we'll apply that. Okay, so that's now just gives us a different color scheme. Now, this is another. I've got a few little things that I really don't like about the game. One of them I don't like is the border, the way the borders are treated. They should be at least a solid line around the borders or a gap, and the color schemes as well. So I'll go through all the things that I think that the game should actually have. Well, not all the things, but I've got like a list of things that I really don't like. One thing I really don't like with the game is the fact that we've got such a limited color scheme for each faction, and the fact that we've actually, when we go and have a look at the actual at who we actually are, like with our flags up through here, for example, it's a preset flag. What the hell? Like there should be a graphic that's one color that you can choose whatever color you like. There should be a basic color scheme. In fact, most games nowadays have either 2 or 3 color schemes that is sort of like a primary, a secondary, and even a tertiary color. In this case, we've just got one primary color set in a flag that is all we have, and so so often you end up with factions sharing the same very limited color scheme, and with no borders to differentiate. If they're next to each other, good luck. You're not going to find out who owns what. So anyway, that's just another. I'll go through all these little things just in case you're sort of on the fence about the game. So I certainly don't mind sort of explaining what the frustrations are. As I said though, this is a game that I really have enjoyed enormously. It's just got little annoyances that I really hope that they get onto at some point. So where are we? We've got our new leader has now arrived. We can have a look and see who this is. So we can just go and open him up. So he has got good a little bit of sensor research, a little bit of hyperdrive research. Trade income is low. That's not going to worry us too much, I don't think. And then civilian ship construction speed is also down as well. So that's okay. That's not going to really matter that much, I don't think. And so that's our leader. He'll get better over time. So we'll just dismiss him. And then we have to go through what we need to do. Now, starting off with this one, we were starting off at least in the young mode. It means we should only have the one. Usually, we'll only have the one location. Yeah, we do. So Kolo Asogi 2 is the only one that we actually have at this point in time. We actually are going backwards here a little bit. And we'll just make doubly sure that actually is a good quality planet. Yeah, mortal and plus anything over 20 is fine. So that's the planet quality is no problem at all. That will come good very, very quickly. It may just because I sort of paused it before the game had a chance to really sort of start to do anything and sort of collect any money from that resource. One thing we want to have a bit of a look at is what we actually have in our local system. And so there's going to be, like, I'm looking at things like, for example, there's my Caslon supply, which is good. So I've got that in the actual local system. We're seeing that each planetary body has got like an exploration level of like 15 in through here, 5 in through this side, 5 and 5. What this is showing us is that the actual amount of surveying is not really, there's hidden things in a lot of these. So if we go across, for example, to Kolo Asogi 3, if I click on this, look over this particular planet, you'll see it's got a 5 with a tick on it, a green tick. Now, there will be other things, these have all got ticks, that some of them won't. And so we've done basic exploration. This one here, this little asteroid HI789, if I go and click on that one, has got unknown items present. There's something else there that nobody has been able to discover just yet. And so there'll be a few of these around the place. If we just go back out again, That's this one here as an actual planet. We've got the 5 that's been done through there. This is like a sensor sweep that's been done of the planet, but there's still unknown items that are present. So we need to find out what these are, because we won't have everything we want on our local system. And so we're going to need to sort of work those things through. Kolowasogi. So again, this one's going to have unknown items that are present. At least we know we've got silicon there. That's actually very, very cool. Steel on through that one there, and we're going to have like a lot of steel back and around here. Now we're going to have to be very, very careful with our start to make sure that we do what we need to do to be able to take on the pirates, because we're going to have pirates all over us. This one here is where we actually have our Caslon. It's only 30% that can be sort of like developed in through that side there. I can't do much with that planet actually, so I'm just going to have to, well, one of the things we're going to have to do is just get a mining station there. That's going to be very, very important. So there will be a mining station queued to be built there. There's another asteroid belt through there. Now what we want to do is we want to find, looks like we've got a lot of steel is going to be one of the building blocks. In fact, if we just go back in, I'll try not to gabble too much about stuff, but I also will try to keep it at least going at a fair pace. When we have a look at the, you can see there we've got no resource shortages at the start. When we click over this one, we can sort of see that this is now going to be divided into fuel resources, which is the Caslon, so we need to get that Caslon supply. We've got then things like, these are the various construction resources. Some of these are very important and some of them aren't. So we've got like a fair bit of carbonite, for example. That's very, very important. We find a source of that. Polymer is very, very important. We find a source of that as well. We do have 4,800 of that on the planet's surface. Silicon, we found one of the planets that actually had that as well. And steel, these are probably our main ones we have to sort of get on top of. So we do actually have the capacity to get more steel. So let's just have a quick look at the resources. Now it starts off with resources in through here with the different sources. I think when we go down to steel, we'll find that there's like nearly 250 odd sources that we know of within this system and with other systems as well. In fact, this is a good way for us to see, okay, we've got four sources of silicon. In fact, that's the other thing. We don't actually, like, there are other systems as well. Like, we do know the other things that are around here. For example, there's good Caslon there in the Zucarb system. There's some Cadians that live there, some Harkonish that live over this side, for example. It's only a very small number there, so we probably wouldn't really be wanting to have those so much. But these will give us opportunities to then sort of take, to move into other areas of the map by taking these planets. Again, the house rule we're going to have is that if we lose any colony, we lose the game. So we only do that when we know we can protect it. So it's going to be. We're not going to be going crazy settling at all. We're just going to sort of take things nice and easy. Anyway, the next thing we have is mining locations. We don't actually have any mining locations, so no mines have been set up. And we've got the new mining locations, and you can see through here. Actually, is it that one there? Yeah, it's what we might do is I might just go to steel, because I do want to get a steel mine. And it will then sort of show me like a list of different sorts of mining locations. So I'll get 69, 65. I'm wanting to get like a high yield steel if we can. This will mainly just be from asteroids. Now the reason it would have chosen that one there as a rocky asteroid, it's not. I don't know why it's choosing that one as one that would want to have. In fact, if I just zoom in a little bit. Where is that? Where are they? There's some down that way. That's probably the best one, really. So I think we'll go that way. I'm not sure where that other one actually is. Oh, it's right there. Okay, it's this one in here. So it would pick up a smattering of other resources around that location. It's nice and close. That's why it wants to do that. It wouldn't matter that much. But I think we'll start over here. So we'll just go and build a mining station there as well. So I'm just queuing up those different mining stations. That's all we need to do there at this early start. So we need to be very, very careful with what we build. The AI will build things as well. And so we just need to make sure that we just go forward. I think I'll unpause the game. The research projects, it's going to start by picking off the It always does it this way. It always goes to hyperdrive technology, and I'm actually happy for it to do that. So we'll just exit the research, let it pick that as well. So it picks that one through there. It spent a little bit to go and get that. So that will be the research that's actually happening. We start off with our spaceports. We don't have to build one of those because of where we actually are starting. I think we've only got the one shipyard. One thing we need to do though is now prepare for the pirates, and so the pirates are going to be probably the next thing we have to really consider in the game. You can see there we are making a little bit of cash flow, which is good. Actually, did we have everything we needed? Did we have a bit of everything? We've got 2 sources of carbonite. Let's have a look and see where these things actually are. So we know what's in through here. Now carbonite. Okay, we've got carbonite there. All right, looks like we've got both sources must be in this location. There's one there and one there. So we've got 2 lots of carbonite. We've got a carbonaceous planet, and we also have the marshy swamp planet with the Harkonish on board. All right, so that's where the carbonite's from. That's good to know. This makes this into an extremely important location for us. Necros stone, we don't know where any Necros stone is just yet. We find that from volcanic worlds. Emeros crystals, we've got 2 of those nearby, that's okay. Silicon, we've got 4, including our home system. The home system is all we really care about at this early stage. Krypton we don't really need. What else do we need? We will need Caprica at some point, but we'll find them, ultimately we'll probably find them in the asteroid belts. Polymer, we actually have one source of polymer also from the Nemban system, and so this is really now becoming a system that I'm starting to think, okay, this is what we need to make sure that we don't lose that system no matter what actually happens. Steel, we've got them all over the place. Aculon, and then Caslon, we've got 3 sources back out through in these different areas. Okay, that's actually not too bad. Like the difficult resources, except for Necros stone, we just don't know whether there's any Necros stone. So that's fine as far as our construction is concerned. Let's now just flick across into combat and sort of get ready for the coming invasions or the coming attacks from the pirates. Now, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we've got. I would love to have about 5 troops on the surface, because if the pirates can get into our home world, they will actually steal resources at some point. And I can't allow that to happen. It's just going to be way too. It's too much for. We can't let that happen for the simple reason that we're going to end up with shortages. And last thing we want is pirates actually taking our hard-earned resources. So I'm going to go and pick, say, 4 or 5. I've got 4. I'll just get one more. So I'm going to start building Conqueror forces, which is just basic infantry for us. So we'll just go and grab those. Actually, other things that we can get through here, if we go to facilities that we can build a troop cloning facility. Now, that's got a bit of a maintenance cost. The robotic troops we don't want. Playing as the Mortalians, they're really just pointless. They're okay if you're playing as the Teekans or something that's quite weak, but for playing a strong faction like the Reptilians, it's just not going to work. Armor factory we will need when we start to do the invasions, but I won't get them just yet because I want to save up the maintenance costs. I want to try to keep this money here as high as I can for as long as I can. So we'll just stumble along doing what we can do. The next thing we need to do is to have a fleet of ships that can take on the Boscarans, and also to take on more importantly, the actual pirates. So we're going to go across to our ship constructions. In fact, before we do that, let's have a quick look down into here. So it's a bit to sort of have a look at when we first get into the game. I want to see if there's any, with the random tech trees that we had, did we get the improved escorts? Yes, we did. That's a big tick. Will we get the improved frigates? And yes, we will. So we can actually sort of ultimately end up with better ships back in through that side. The other things we want to have a bit of a look at is to make sure that we've got planetary governance. Sometimes this disappears when you've got the random tech trees. And what else can disappear? It's all okay there. No, that's all okay. That's I think they're the main ones that I tend to look for at the start. So at least we've got everything that we need. So we'll just exit the research there. And oh, by the way, if you are trying to sort of evaluate what you can do, you can sort of hover over these and then sort of see, what you can build on the different ships. Like the escorts, for example, have got like 2 large weapon slots. Now, if we were playing as a human or something else like that, it may be that we end up with either just one large and one standard, or even just two standard bays, which means we can't sort of squeeze much onto these ships. Now, another problem with the game, God, I'm going to be sounding like I'm just whinging about the game all the time. One of the other problems with the game, though, is that it shows you standard and large component bays, but there's actually a medium in the middle there as well, and it doesn't present that. So does that mean that we've got like two large bays or two medium bays? We don't know until we actually go in and start designing ships. And similarly down through here, we're going to have like other ones where there's, you can see there on the heavy escort, we've got like one standard weapon bay and two large weapon bays. And this is also a problem also for the hangars. When you've got the hangars, you've actually got three sizes of hangars, standard, medium and large. And it's really important you know what you're actually aiming for with the various ship designs. So I've been caught out that way before, where I've gone straight to a large hangar bay playing as the Actarians, thinking I can put it on because it had large written in there, but it wasn't. It was actually only a medium that could be fitted onto that particular design. So just be aware that sometimes when you're seeing between the large and the standard, you know, either one of them can actually mean medium, which is very, very frustrating. Now, eventually we're going to be wanting to get destroyers. So you can see there we've got three standards and four large weapon slots in through that one there, and one hangar bay. It's saying in the large, but that will just be a medium hangar bay in through that side. So anyway, that's sort of where we are with the basic designs. Not that we're doing anything with those just yet. We do actually have other frigates as well. Another big thing that changes is that when you have a look at at this frigate here, for example, it's got a maximum size of 450. These ones up through here will have a little bit more. These have got a maximum size of 490. So that's sort of how they actually work as well. Let's get out of there and go in and start designing our ships. So now, another thing, the game should default to active buildable designs. So get in the habit at this stage, until it's been made so that you can actually keep this as your default, have that as your default, active buildable designs. It means that if you've got any like double ups of escorts and frigates, and there will be times when you want to have like multiple designs that do different things, if you leave it on latest buildable designs, it will only show one role if you've got multiple roles that are still active over through here. So your best bet is to go to active buildable designs, and all types is fine, you know, in this case. Now what I want to do is I want to have a bit of an evaluation of the escort and the frigate. And so if we go and see, we can see there that the size is 399 and the size for the frigate is 437. Now this is under the 450 that we saw when we just had a quick look at the tech that we had available, and I think this is above what we had there before. So if I just go to add new, and if I then click on and sort by role, we can see that we've got like three different escorts. Our basic escort, which does have a maximum size of 375. So really, it's not going to be of any real value to us. So that escort is not something that I want. I'd be wanting to either get a patrol escort, which is fast, or a heavy escort, which is strong. And I strongly suggest that you actually just have a bit of a look at this. Just go and click on the patrol escort, auto-generate the new design, and just sort of see what the layouts actually are. And the most important thing with this is what's the facings of the various weaponry. And if you scroll down through here, these are genuinely two large weapon slots. 120 is the largest of the large. When you sort of see different sizes, this is the maximum size that you can squeeze into a particular area. Now, if I hover over railgun and then have a look at the top of the list that popped out on the right-hand side there, it says the size is only 26. So I've got a capacity up to 120, as long as I've got the space on the ship through here to actually sort of put something fairly large, but it's only putting in a 26 into a turret or into a hard point that can take as big as we can squeeze into there. So these are genuinely two large weapon slots. Now, the Mortallans and the Boscarans will tend to have this sort of like, you know, a capacity to do a lot of damage if we can just find the right sort of weaponry to put on these ships. In this case, that actually isn't too bad. We also have just like two defensive areas, which is worth sort of having a bit of a look at. Another thing I'm interested in seeing is how many sensor arrays we can squeeze on the ships. That having the second one can actually make a big difference to the survivability of ships. And this one here's got like heaps of engines, so it's a very, very fast ship. So that one there is interesting because it does actually have like both weapon slots have got 180 degrees field of fire from the front. So they don't have anything that gets in behind them will be able to just fire away at will and do damage without them being able to fire back, unless they had like a seeking weapon of some type. But if they've got the hive maneuverability, then that's not going to really worry them too much. Let's just cancel that one. We'll just have a look at the next one. So we'll just go to add new. In this case, we'll go to heavy escort and just see which one of these is more viable. So auto generate, and we'll see there that we've got still got the two large ones, and we have then another one at the top there. So we've got an extra hard mount, which has got a field of fire here of 270. That's a medium. When you see 39, that means it's a medium. If it says 19, it means it's a small. So in this case, even though the designation was 1 small and 2 large, it actually should have been 1 medium and 2 large. Again, just little things like this I think would make the game a lot easier to pick up and understand if those sorts of things were actually done properly in terms of the designation. So that one does give us, we can actually sort of, like anything directly behind we're going to have troubles with, but we could actually, we could put point defense on there and at least be able to fire at fighters that are a little bit off the side. So even as we turn, we'll probably be able to get some shots in, and we still actually have the 2 large in through there. So personally, I like these. Like the 83 sprint speed is actually fast enough. That's actually good enough for what we need. So I quite like the look of this, to be honest, but I'll probably get rid of one of the sentinel beams and put in another medium railgun, I think, inside this one here. Now this is going to be, so look, we might as well just go and do this one. We've got all of the slots filled in through there. We're still at 390, so we've actually still got a lot of space we can squeeze onto this thing. Let's go back and ditch the sentinel. Now this is another thing I think should be standard as the defaults. Instead of showing all components and then bay type name, these should be defaulting to latest per category, even though this doesn't work really properly yet, particularly when you come and have a look at your weaponry. Sometimes your weaponry that you do want to use will actually disappear. For example, as soon as you get any point defense that's beyond the level that the Sentinel multi-beam defense is, it will then only show those ones when you've got this one. So at times you will have to go back to all, but generally you want the latest per category. And then this one here, you want the bay type category as well. What that does is it just puts everything that's the same sort of weapon or same sort of component will be put together, and that's designated by this 3-letter command that you sort of see off to the side there. And so in this case, we've got like so anything like this is weapon, close in weapons. So this is W is weapon, and then CL is close in or close. And so the railgun is a close in weapon, which essentially means that it's like almost like a beam weapon or a kinetic weapon where it has to be aimed and fired. It doesn't then sort of it doesn't track. Some of the others will track, like the Surge Blast. That one is a area weapon. Actually, yeah, that's a seeking. Fire type is seeking. Some of the others, we've got the Interceptor. So this is the intercept weapons, the WINs. These are your point defense. Again, the best one really does tend to be the Sentinel multi-beam. It's got like good range and good accuracy, so it can sort of bring things down fairly readily. And then you've got like your standoff weapons, which are sort of seeking weapons, and so these are long-range missiles and torpedoes that you have available as well. But in our case, what we want to do is all we really have, probably the best bang for buck we get is this medium railgun at size 26. So let's just go and throw that one into there. That takes us up to 405. We've still got a little bit of space. Now we don't actually have any short range. We don't have anything else in here that we can actually add in. We've still got 10. Now the thrust vector, we may be able to squeeze one of those in. I'll just put it back into the engines. And so the thrust vector did actually fit. That takes us up to 415. Let's just change this to the heavy escort. This one just gives us a little bit more firepower. Just call it a heavy escort. You can call it whatever you like. I'll just actually, before I save and exit, I always do this one incorrectly. In fact, let me show you. No, I won't do it. I will do it the correct way, which is to sort of make sure that you go through your designations. Now, the railgun, if we hover over the railgun there, we'll see that it's, when we look at the different things, it's a direct fire weapon. Damage type is standard impact. The damage is 11, and that's based on the rate of fire. It's 7.2 per second. The range that it actually has is 880. Damage at max range is almost the same, actually. Actually, no, it's not quite the same. It's got 10.03, but the actual rate is 3.28. So it actually drops off by about half. So the closer in we have, the more damage per second we can then go and do. Because of the accuracy, that's the next phase. The point blank accuracy is 72%. The maximum range accuracy is only 36%, which is why that damage at max range is lower. So weapon countermeasures are plus 62. Weapon targeting is minus 10%. The damage fall-off ratio, 10% per 1,000, which means that the damage itself hardly drops off. It's just the accuracy. The speed of the actual bullets themselves, or the kinetic projectiles, 350 per second. Now they have a shield bypass, which is why I like to use them, because they can actually break through shielding and do damage to the armor and the hull and the actual components underneath. So sometimes you can get shots that actually sort of, even with a ship that's still fairly functional, you can actually break through and actually do some damage there that can actually make them either leave the fight or sort of struggle in the fight. Energy per shot is 7. Now the energy comes off our fission reactors, so we've got some reactors on board the ship. I'll show you where they are in just a second. So this one doesn't do all that well against armor, but does do very, very well against shielding. The firing rate is every 2.2 seconds they can fire off another volley. Intercept fighters is weak at only 6. Intercept seeking, which is missiles, is 4. So they can be used as point defense, but not very well. So they don't do very much there. The intercept range is 440, so it's fairly low range. And the intercept energy per shot is the same as a normal shot. The intercept fire rate is 1.38 seconds, so it's a little bit faster to do it if we're doing intercepts. And the shots per volley is 2. Because it's a medium. Now, this if we go and click on that one and then hover over the small, we can then see that the next one across is the small. Now, the only difference between a small and a medium railgun is that the medium rail mount has got 2 small railguns attached to them, and so they do basically double damage, but it's the same stats. It's just that you can see their shots per volley is 2 for the medium and only 1 for the small. So that's sort of what goes on with those. Some of the others will actually be a bit different, like when you click on different sorts of things. I think the Thuon beam will be the same. That will be just a... actually, no, it does change a little bit in through there. But no, it's pretty much double again. So this will be like 2 beams being fired from the one hard mount if you're sort of using these. But I do like the damage. The damage rates are pretty good for railguns, so I tend to sort of use them a lot. Anyway, so we've now got two medium railguns, Sentinel multi-beam. The Sentinel multi-beam is a beam that is great for point defense. Like, it does a very, very good job at point defense. Everything else is fine there, so we'll just go and save this. Actually, no, we're still not ready yet. We have to go back up to here. So what I was showing is that the railguns need to be fired at short range. And so when they're on their own, I want them to engage anything in the same system that they're in. I want them to be aggressive against weaker targets, but I also want them to be aggressive against stronger targets. I want them to close the gap and do damage. And so we need to have aggressive in through there. Retreat when. Now, I don't want their shielding to drop off completely. So I'm going to go to shields below 20% and armor below 50%, because I don't want the pirates capturing these ships. So I'm going to go that way, which will help them a little bit with their survivability. It's incredible what a difference choosing the right one of these can actually make to your actual to your ship designs. So definitely I'm going to be going that way. They're not going to be invading colonies, so that doesn't really matter. They're going to be just a core part of the fleet at this stage. Everything else is actually okay. So this indicator is just sort of changes so you can sort of see the external mounts on the actual design itself. So we'll save and exit. Now what that one does is we've now got the heavy escort, and we also have the other escort. So here we've got a situation where we've got 2 escorts. They're both active. If I went back down to latest buildable, I would only see my recent one, even though the other one is still actually active. There's a few things we need to fix here. This is why I like to have the active buildable designs are the ones that are then shown. I don't want this escort anymore, so I'm going to go and make that one obsolete. Now, as far as I also don't want the AI redesigning the ships that I make changes to. This is actually something that somebody else had suggested, which I thought was just a bit of a no-brainer, but you don't think about it when you get used to the game, is that when you start making your own designs, the default should be to change the auto design and turn that off. and make that manual. So we'll have a look at, and we'll make this just like a manual design now that we look after. And it's done it with the obsolete one there as well. Now, if I turn that one off and just go back into it, the one that was obsolete is now going to disappear. So we don't no longer see that anymore. But that's why you have active buildable and not latest buildable. It's the active buildable that is by far the most important one to actually sort of be looking at. So anyway, we've got the escorts. We're going to be manually designing those. Now I'm pretty happy with what we saw there from those little escorts, because if I can get away with being able to do what I need to do with those escorts, then happy days. That's all we really need. We don't need to go to the bigger frigates. Now, we only have one frigate design. Let's just go and edit this one as an example. So what does this one bring to the party that we don't actually have? We've got a couple of large weapon slots there, another 270. So pretty much the same deal there, but with a couple of other weapon mounts at the back. So what does this one put in? It's put in a railgun at the front. It's put a concussion missile at the front, which we probably would get rid of. And it really then just has pretty much the same layout as our heavy escort. The differences are, it's only still got the one area in there. It's only got the two different defense areas in through the side as well. And it's a bit slower, so we don't really gain much by having a frigate. So I think we actually leave the frigates until we find some other reason to have them in the fight. And it could be as a bombard ship. It could be all sorts of different things. Now, these do actually have a bigger hull, so they do have better survivability, but we don't have to worry too much about it. Now, I haven't gone through a lot of the design aspects of the actual ship itself. I will be making a tutorial series when the game is a little bit more developed, and there's when there's a bit more things in there that I think need to be in the game, and I think that will be the trigger for me then to do a tutorial series on the game. I just don't think it's ready for that yet. I think it's going to be too many changes coming up. So I'll just talk about the things that I think are important at different times. If there's ever a problem with what you're designing, it will then tell you up through here if your weight is too high, or your crew, if you don't have enough crew, etc. Then there will be a warning. You won't be able to then build the ship. Anyway, let's just cancel that one. I'm just going to leave that on automatic at this point in time. We'll leave that one alone. And what we want to do is we want to build some of these. Now, we don't want to be building too many of them. In fact, I might do that in the next episode, I think. I've sort of now gone well over time. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in episode 2.